Hey everybody, welcome back to Crafty Chat, and it is now episode Sweet 16, and so that leads into our topic that we're going to revisit what we were crafting when we were Sweet 16 and a little bit older, like the teen years, those times of change. I don't know what else to call it. Yeah.
Those formative years.
Formative years. That's the word. Thank you. So, who wants to dive in with? I kind of feel like, Lucy, you inspired this in a way because you were showing us that cool book you found. So
I will show you, because the other thing that I was deeply into when I was 16 and 17, like I did a lot of batik at my school, and so I did this independent project. You could do an independent art project instead of a sport one semester, so I was like, yes. So I did this whole batik thing, and I have kept a few of them, and I cannot find them anywhere, which is weird because my house is not big, and I don't, it's like, so the only thing that I do have the thing that inspired us was my quote journal, which is, so it's just a black sketchbook, and look, I decorated the front with paint markers, which is like so indicative of the time of my teenage years. And then it's just filled every single page with quotes that I took from books, songs. I don't even know where I got them all. And then I would occasionally like tape in pictures from magazines. There's a tiny one there. I would tape in sketches that I'd done. Oh, wow. I drew it, like I doodled. And there's, so it's just full of, I'm trying to find there's a letter from my high school boyfriend. Which, when I first found this, I was like, oh, I should take that out, but then I was like, no, that was where I was, right? I was trying to find like a big page that I just, here, I drew my hands. So it's just, I never really thought about it when I was creating it as being something like artistic or interesting that I was creating. Truly, I just loved the words, and so I wanted to have a place to put them. And then I just doodled in my style. And when I dug this out, I dug it out during our creative challenge because she was talking about things you'd collected, and I was like, I get rid of everything. But I was like, wait, I kind of collected these quotes. And then looking at it, I was like, wow, this is like a real journal sketchbook thing that I have, but also like that was my way of creating at the time. So it's just kind of interesting that to look back on being 16, which was, a bit ago, and realize that even when I didn't think I was being creative, like you think about what were you doing artistically or what were you doing with crafts, but how are you creating in an everyday way? So it was fun to find that.
I actually did almost exactly that, and I was trying to find the sketchbook that I had when I was 16, 17, I was a junior in high school, and I was really emo in high school, like super emo. So, and I couldn't find the sketchbook which confuses me because I save everything.
Right.
Just like everything. And that would be something that I would absolutely want to hold on to, but I can't for the life of me find it. And that was driving me crazy for a while. But then I was trying to think of like, what do I remember being in there? And like, my favorite band was My Chemical Romance. You have a little bit of an idea of exactly where I was. So I remember drawing like motifs from their music and then putting the lyrics onto it in kind of the same way, in like kind of a loose artistic style, and doing a lot of doodling and drawing, because for the longest time growing up, I was put into an academic track of like, you're going to take all academic classes, the creative classes aren't for you. you're on a college track, like this isn't something that is going to be part of your curriculum because you have better things to be doing, which was stupid looking back. So I was never in art classes, and I was always kind of told of like, oh, you're not artistic, you're not creative, this is not something that's for you, this is just not your identity. So I kind of started actually realizing later in high school of like, I can draw, because we were taking there was the first time I took an art class outside of elementary school was this junior year humanities class. It was 2 hours in the morning. It was this big college track thing that you take where you study arts and history in a more in-depth context. So we were doing all these art projects along with the normal academic stuff, and all of my stuff was coming out really awesome. So like all of my artwork, all of my drawing, it was really cool. And the art teacher, who had been our school's art teacher since I was in kindergarten, looks at me like, I never realized that you were artistic before. Like, well, you told me that I wasn't. And it kind of was just like a wake-up call for me, and like looking back of all of these things of the drawing and the I painted boxes a lot of the time. I'm actually going to go get one. Hold on. I have a thing with peacocks. So I painted peacocks on this gigantic box and did my initials on it. So this was something that I did later, but it was a lot of the same kind of stuff. So is there kind of like linear art, more like coloring, but I did a lot of that in high school, a lot of painting boxes. And yeah, it was just that moment, being 16, 17, and realizing that, like, my teenage rebellion of, I'm artistic, I'm creative, you can't tell me who I am kind of attitude was new for me at that point. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I really kind of, it was the springboard for a lot of other things, but that kind of started the creative process for me, because what I consistently did all through growing up was a lot of like friendship bracelets.
Yeah, I did a lot of those things too.
And macrame, and so a lot of thread art type stuff. But the drawing and the painting, I really got heavily into that in high school, and I still do a little bit of it, more now than I did, through college and in the last several years. But
yeah.
How about you, Heidi?
Okay, so I had to go up into the attic. It was really hot and dusty. And I was digging around, my back started, I was like, geez, I'm really feeling, I was feeling my age. Like, I feel so far from 16 right now. I had to share that. Anyway, and I'm digging around, and I was like, I can't find anything. So I was into photography. Guess I should start there. I started taking classes in my freshman year and took photography throughout my entire high school time. So that was really where my focus was. We also had a really cool graphic arts lab. We had a lot of great vocational resources. Like they even had an auto lab and all kinds of stuff. So it was really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I found a bunch of my negatives, but I couldn't find my photos. And I'm like, I know I have photographs. So that was kind of frustrating, but I did find, and of course it's not been kept in good condition. So there's this, which is my cat at the time.
Aww.
And I was into dyeing stuff with Kool-Aid.
Really?
Yeah.
On film? That's cool.
On the photo paper. So then this is when I did a weaving of.
Oh, that's really cool.
So there was a couple. What else did we do? A lot of us were into like the solarized photography, which is where you have an image and then I don't remember how you do it. I think you start developing it and then you expose it a second time so that you get a lot of like silvery tones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that was fun. Yeah, I thought I had some I was like, oh, I remember certain photos that were really cool, but I couldn't find them.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can get this one out.
That was one of the things that I remembered a lot looking back through, because I did find some sketchbooks where they were more like collage art from magazines and printed pictures and stuff. Yeah. But I was really heavy into charcoal in high school. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of charcoal drawings, and that was really fun.
Picture of me.
I did a lot in college.
Reference. Here I am. Sorry.
That's cool. Did you say that was you?
That was me. Yeah. I just wanted to get reference for you know, my 16-year-old self. So then the other thing that I remember doing, and it took some digging, I used to have more of these. I did a lot of like needlework, embroidery work,
Right. Yeah.
and just kind of taking an image and just kind of free doing it. It was on like a Ada cloth, a cross-stitch canvas. And I made these like little designs.
Oh, those are.
Oh, wow.
And I made them into little bags that have stones in them. So, and this
Oh,
one's
that one's cool.
some kind of pine tree. Is it a white pine? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
But I did a lot with birds and stuff too, because they have so much color. With like the feathering, it was really easy way to play with the texture. So
I had a Monty Python moment. I was like, it's a larch.
That's funny.
And I was surprised to find I did do some sketchbook drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like really great, but like I was into, you know, working with like from a photo and just learning to draw.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I used to do that while I worked. I was a little bit older. I was working as a receptionist in a community college counseling office. So, and I probably didn't work on these. I started to work on nudes, and I really liked pointillism because it was an easy way to shade.
Yeah.
I was so committed. So I did a lot of stuff like this, which
Wow.
in later years I used as image transfers in pottery to make tiles. So it was kind of like the stuff I was like always like kind of, it's cool to be able to go back and keep using stuff that you did, you know, some years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was finding nothing, and then I was like, oh wait, I did, because at first I was like, I have nothing for this program. I'm like, they're gonna blow me out of the water, and I'm just gonna have all these excuses. But I was like, well,
Yeah.
I have nothing. And, you know, I was a fine arts major in college for like my first 2.5 years. So I had like portfolios, and we actually do have some of my prints. I was like, my focus was printmaking. And we have some of my prints like framed and hanging on our walls still in my house, but which I don't even think about. Like, oh wait, I made that. But I don't have I've moved so many times from like college to New York to Boston to St. Louis to here. It's just like that stuff has to go, you know, and especially once I had a family, like my family has a hard time getting rid of stuff. So I was always the one who was like, I'm not going to bring. But I'm disappointed in myself, and it's here we spending a lot of time in your own environment, and you kind of wish you had all that, or I wish I had all that now to like be looking through.
I just wonder what happened to some of the good stuff. Like I was finding photographs. I did find something, and I'm like, what was this being held onto for? Like, I just probably left the darkroom one day and shoved it in the folder and was like, you know. But it's like, this was garbage. This was. So like,
maybe you didn't think it was garbage at the time, though.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I remember it being like, this didn't get exposed. But yeah.
Well, it's something too where like I'm realizing at 31 years old, there's so much of my stuff that's still at my parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kept wanting, when I was thinking about this, of like, I want to go look through some of those boxes that I know are still there. Because like 90% of my stuff it's in my possession or has been purged. But there's things where I can't pinpoint where they went. And that's like the only place that I can think of that they would be is at my mom's.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm finding like little things that I've been using for almost 20 years, like braided and toe weave keychains that I still have on bags that I had as zipper pulls, or jewelry that I made when I was just out of college, and you know, in college, is still in my jewelry box. So like those little things that I was doing a lot of, that I realized those are still in use for me, because a lot of the stuff that I was making was strictly like ornamental type stuff. It was jewelry, it was boxes, it was stuff that I was going to use. It was more utilitarian, I think is what I'm getting at, instead of just drawing. So I was doing both, but the things that have persisted over the course of my life have been the things that I'm using instead of the art, which makes me a little sad, because the art was still really fun and really cool. So I wish I still had it. That's kind of, you know, hindsight of that would be great if I still had that. I'm going to go shut the door 1 second.
Oh, I have so much of my kids' artwork, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I moved, I curated that because I would hang on to everything. So I thought it was like hilarious, you know?
Yeah.
But we still have some big boxes of that. that they enjoy looking through.
One of the things that surprised me the most that has been held on to in my family, my dad has a framed piece of artwork that he got first prize in an art contest when he was in first grade.
Wow.
And it's hanging in his condo, and it's really, really cute and really sweet. And then the other thing that he has is something that I did when I was very small. It's Q-tips and colored glue. And it's just like I was messing around with Q-tips and just this really, really bright blue and pink and yellow glue that I've never been able to figure out where we got it from. And it's in it's in like a thicker frame because it's like more like a mixed media art piece. And he still has that framed in his office from when I was 2-3 years old, if that. And that was really cute of how those things kind of persist in our family, of like those things we hold on to.
That's sweet.
Yeah. I want it from him. I want it. I want to keep it, and he won't give it to me. He's like, no, that's mine. I'm keeping that. So.
Yeah, my dad was somebody who really kept a lot of things, as for posterity, always for posterity.
Yes.
But he had like the box of like the file each grade, saved certain pieces, and I think he must still have that box, because I know a couple of years ago I went and cleared out all my stuff that he had in the basement, because that's how parents start to get after a while. They're like, oh, what are we gonna do with all this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like, come take it or get rid of it or whatever. So
Yeah.
that was a very like cathartic, I guess, kind of thing, to like be going through like a stack of 6 boxes of like your life when you were like in high school and all this, and it's like it felt like somebody should have died to be going through this kind of stuff. Like normally that's go through it, but I was doing it like, I don't know, it was just weird.
It's kind of just, I don't know, it's kind of a death cleaning in a way, because you're not that person anymore. That person is, you are and you aren't. Maybe I'm getting a little philosophical into this and really don't need to, but like you change over the course of time, and I'm a deeply nostalgic person, so I love doing that. That's part of the reason why I know I hold on to things when I shouldn't, is because I want to remember and I want to be able to revisit that, because I have such strong memories. But at the same time, one of the biggest catharsis moments for me was throwing away all of my notebooks and stuff that I like, notes and just crap that I had saved from college, because I studied geology in college, and I was like, oh, I'm going to keep all this because I'll end up using it in my career. I'm not going into geology. It's not happening. Like, throwing all that away felt so good. And just like purging all of that negative feeling and guilt and like almost trauma that I had of like, I went through college to study this one thing, it didn't end up working out. I beat myself up about that for a long time. So getting rid of all of that was that final step in like, this, I'm okay with where I am. This is my life. I've made these choices, and like making my peace with that, getting rid of a lot of that stuff helped.
Yeah. It was embarrassing though, like reading essays I wrote in high school. I was like, wow, I was really not impressed.
Nope. That was,
we're gonna get rid of that stuff. Nobody needs to know.
I don't want to keep that around.
What?
When we first talked about this, I was like, well, my high school had us do like a time capsule, a folder time capsule, like of all of our essays and artwork and things like from our permanent record that we would open up 10 years after graduation. I opened all that up and was reading like, this is all trash. This is horrible. Like, why did you?
It's like, what's important to you when you're in high school? I mean, as you were saying, Nancy, you were so emo, but I think in general, like when you're 16, there is, not to generalize, but there is some angst that comes being a teenager. And like, I find that when I look through this book, parts of even though it wasn't my words, what I was choosing to collect is sometimes very embarrassing to me. It's like, oh my God, stop with the love stuff and the painful love, or the, just, it's funny how the reflection of myself now, where I'm like, that was me, where I see myself most in this is like the little doodles and stuff. That's still what I do. But I do think a lot of it you
so hard.
let go of a lot of it.
Yeah, I still have. I keep all of my. I did do a lot of diary and journal writing all through my life at different sporadic points. Most of the time when I was struggling with something, or I was really trying to grapple with a concept, or like angst, love, feelings, just because like when you're I kind of conceptualize being 16 of like you're learning how to be an adult. You're learning how to the reality that these bigger concepts exist, the expectations that are put on you to grow up, to learn things really quickly. Your brain is changing. Everything around you is so in flux. And a lot of times folks aren't really ready for that because they haven't. Not every kid at 16 has the toolbox to deal with all of these big things that they have to learn as teenagers and that come at them when they're teenagers. So like I say I was really emo because that was the terminology at the time of like how I conceptualized it. But I'm looking back at all this stuff and like through a lens of where I was, it's totally normal.
Yeah.
I look at my cousins now, they're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They're saying exactly the same things. They're going through all of the same things that I did. So that kind of coming full circle for me was really cool of like, yes, this is God, it's so embarrassing. The kind of crap that I would write and like the things that are in those diaries. And I just like had this existential dread of like, why am I keeping these? Somebody could read these someday and it would be horrifying. But at the same time, it's so human of an experience that I love that time capsule of who you were and that period of your life.
Well, I think like when you're 16 or around there, like let's say through 20, I think that feelings are very intense, like you feel things very intensely. And so it's interesting to look at anything that you were creating in that time period, whether it's like photography or painting a box or anything, and like through that lens of and so I look at stuff I did and I think it's either see that like intense feeling put on it or the complete opposite, almost like I'm going to draw this thing because I have to draw something right now for a class and I'm not inspired, so I'm gonna either like mimic someone else's style. I think there's a lot of that, like trying to figure out who you are, or I'm going to draw something that's in front of me because it's in front of me. But it's just interesting to see. And I don't think that's probably, I mean, that creative process is still probably the same no matter how you age, but.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I love looking at, I would definitely agree that it's a process and it's finding who you are. That's why I so strongly lean on art therapy for really hard things, or suggest that for my cousins who are growing up, or for people that I know that are, in my family that are going through rough stuff of like, don't just write it out, just pull out a crayon and just scribble as hard as you can on the paper. You'll feel better after. Because and doing that kind of mimicry or copying, that is learning about your identity, because learning about who you are as an artist and who you are as a creative person. I agonized over that when I was in high school and college, because I did a lot of copying. I did a lot of tracing. I did a lot of coloring other people's line art. I did a lot of copying designs and then embroidering them. But I needed those building blocks. I needed to copy and layer over somebody else's work in order to gain the skills that I needed to do what I do now. Yeah, so there's a strong amount of validity in that, because not everybody has the access or the means to take an actual art class and be classically trained to draw or to paint or to do these other things. You kind of have to learn it in your own way, which is magical in its own way of like how you learn and the process that you go through to learn it. So like one of my favorite things is looking at artists that I follow online, and there's art challenges where folks will pull their favorite piece of artwork from every year that they've been drawing or painting, so you can watch their art progression of their skill building. And that's so cool to me to watch that timeline of here's how my skills have changed through time.
Yeah. That's why retrospectives are really cool. People have those
Yes.
exhibits.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, there was one thing I forgot to mention that I found. Because one thing I did in, I guess this was more in college because we took a film class where you actually shoot films, Super 8.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
So I don't have the film anymore, sadly, because I let somebody hold on to it, and I should have just taken it with me after we had like a showing one night. But whatever. I mean, it's all up in here still. But
The memory's there. That's what's important.
memory's there. But I had done an animation. I was really into kinetic art, which is like an object that has movement, I guess. I don't know. I'm not giving a really great definition, but like, if you've ever been in a car and as you're driving and you see like those towers that hold electric wires, probably a word for those. But they kind of like the lines, they shift and they move. Like sometimes they meet up and they like just make different patterns.
Yeah.
That's kind of loose. It's sort of a kinetic art. Anyway, and this is not necessarily 100% kinetic art, but I did like a stop motion animation where I physically drew out the cards. So like,
Oh, wow.
and there's like a lot of them. Anyway, I thought I should try and shoot them and create a little film. So
you should.
You
try and
should.
film to see, because I mean,
cool.
it's a huge like stack. So
Wow.
I love stop motion animation. I've never tried it, but that's been pervasive in my film interest since I was very small. Like I remember watching a documentary about Ray Harryhausen, who's like the kind of the founder, or like the first stop motion animator. And he did stuff that was based on mythology and, King Kong and a lot of dinosaur stuff. I remember watching that when I was like 6 or 7 and being totally enchanted by that. And like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, the stuff that's coming out recently of Kubo and the Two Strings.
that was such a good one.
Paranorman, like, God, there's so many of them, and it's just like the list goes on and on and on. I love that, and just that art form to me was always really. Coraline was really, that's another one that was really, really good.
But it's just so funny because now we can do things digitally, like something that looks like this. You could make a GIF, you just however you do it. I don't know exactly, but I don't think it's the labor intensity of like, drawing each card, so each one's a little bit different.
Yeah,
just like. But it was funny to find these and be like, I remember doing that. And I remember like kept trying to line everything up and being so precise and it being like in the middle of the night, because what was I reading? Oh, I was reading a book by Questlove. He's got a book about creativity. And he's just talking about, it's like they've done studies where they find people are at their most creative when you're less alert. So the more awake you are, the more ready for it. It's like you don't allow, you filter too much out, I guess is what it is. So it's like when you're tired or whatever. So sometimes that's where like at the end of the day, when you've been like hashing something over and over, all of a sudden you get that light bulb idea. It's just because you really quieted a lot of aspects of your mind. So they're like, that's why 2 a.m. can be, it's like there was some cartoon I saw. It's like, okay, I'm ready to draw. I'm ready to go. And it's like, got
your
nothing.
brain at 2 a.m. with a gun saying "draw right now."
Sarah
Scribbles.
Yeah.
And she posted on her Instagram recently, and I was like, God, that's like every creative moment I had up until I was like 27. Because I remember that.
You wake up at 3 a.m. because nature calls, whatever, and then you're laying there and you're like, oh yeah, all these things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I just get up super early now.
Yeah, you're smart. My husband does that. He's like, I just get up. I'm like, well,
yeah, I get up like when most people are going to bed. Probably.
Yeah, no, I would stay up until 3 a.m. regularly and then draw, paint, do whatever all night and just be completely trashed the next day and be like, this is my process. Like, there's got to be a healthier way for me to do this because this is insane. Yeah. But that reminded me, I took a class in college at Michigan State that was on the creative process, and I totally forgot that I did this. So we read stuff by Twyla Tharp and Csikszentmihalyi of like the psychology and the process of being creative. And I remember so little from that class that I'm just like, I really should go back and reread those books because those are the few textbooks that I kept. Were the readings from that class. So like I have a copy of Twyla Tharp's book. I have a copy of Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi's book. I think it's called The Creative Flow. That was really good, and that one I did really enjoy. It was hard for me to read because I have a hard time paying attention to academic textbooks. I have a short attention span.
Well, that's why I was enjoying Questlove's book so far, because I'm listening to it. It's the audiobook.
I'll read that, yeah.
And he's like, it's not, I don't know, I guess, I can't remember what he was saying, because I've just kind of started dipping into it, but it's just more about, like, I guess approaching being creative, or how do you recognize creativity, in your life, as opposed to, like, the psychology of it so much, where a lot of
what's the name of
you become very academic and very textbook about, like, the creative process, and this is how, I don't know.
Yeah, because a lot of my stuff is really...
Creative Quest, I think.
Yeah, it's called...
I got it on Overdrive, I can tell you.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's called Creative Quest.
Yeah.
Okay. He has a cooking show somewhere now. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. It's like, that's so interesting to me. Maybe on the Food Network or something like that. Sorry, that had nothing to do with anything. Although cooking is creative, but you know.
So, anyway, I don't really know where I was going with. I wish I would have written more of it down. And now I'm inspired by your quote book, because as we've been doing our daily practice thing, and I've been coming across different stuff, I've been noticing. I've been because there's that observation. And I'm not walking around overhearing people, because I'm not getting close to people.
Right.
But,
I haven't overheard anybody.
But I liked how you were like, well, I heard something on the radio, or I was reading something. It's just like I'm kind of taking those quotes or taking that stuff and writing it down. And it's a nice practice. And so I'm going to make a quote book, maybe.
Yeah. Even post, like after this, my whole life, basically, I have written down passages from whatever I'm reading. The problem is, my way of doing that is that I will write it on, like, I have like tons of tiny notebooks like this all over the place, or like bigger notebooks, or just a spiral bound notebook, or a Post-it. And so it's like, I should, I could collect all that. It's almost like the process of writing it down solidifies it for me. And so it's like this collection of words. I continue to do it. I only wish that I had continued to do it in something like this, so that so now I'm going to try to start doing that again, and I was sort of inspired by our creative challenge to start putting things, like, she has tons of notebooks, the woman that we're learning from. But
I feel a lot of guilt behind that, of like, I have 7, 8, 9, 10 notebooks for different reasons and different purposes, and like, I try to be really strict with myself on, like, my bullet journal is for my planner and all of my everyday notes. And then I have other subject-based notebooks that are for other purposes. But, like, I stopped doing that. I stopped writing down song lyrics that I really liked, quotes that I ran across, things that I heard from other people for a good 10 years of my life. And I'm like, why did I stop doing that? That was really... So I'm trying to do that again. I checked out a book from the library. It's called Recipes for Self-Love. And it's by... Alice and Rachel, and it's a pretty simple book, and it has very short, paragraph long descriptions of, like, she'll make a statement that says, drink enough water every day, or your body is not something that can be policed by someone else. So simple statements like that. I pulled that book out and was flipping through it and thinking, I could do little art pieces in a small book and then put that quote there, and that would be really cool. And that would be a way of, like, solidifying these concepts internally, so that I'm subconsciously thinking about them as I'm going through daily life. Like, it's a conversation my partner and I have been having of, like, how do you change your habits subconsciously and set yourself up for success when you're trying to implement better habits or get healthier, remember to take your medications, eat well, eat at the same times, stuff like that. So I was like, that may be something that would help me to do those tiny pieces of art with that quote.
That would be neat too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the action of writing something down definitely helps for me. My mind record it. That's why like when I used to teach yoga, I really appreciated people writing their names when they signed in. And then some studios went to having like a barcode key tag that they could just scan. And I'm like, I don't learn their name. I'm not reading it on there, trying to figure out their handwriting, typing it in, and having that exchange with them while that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to write everything
Mm-hmm.
down. I mean, it just like habitually I do, even if I don't keep it, you know, but it's sort of like the idea of like writing stuff in different notebooks or pieces of paper, or trying to put all of that in one, or be organized with yourself. We've sort of hit on that before in other episodes, just talking about like process versus product, you know, like, are you collecting words or overheard things to have a collection, or are you doing it like to put those words in your brain? You know what I'm saying? So it's like that same thing of, we've talked about that with other things we've made, or like, you knit something, you don't necessarily want to keep it, but you've learned something in the knitting, or, you know, so it's, it sort of goes back to that struggle with crafting of like, am I making this to learn something, or am I making it to have a thing, or both? So
I love that I also found a napkin that has like instructions about what I was going to do with some of my negatives, I guess they are, that I was writing down. I don't know if you can read it, but
yeah, I can. Glossy.
Yeah, on glossy shit. Then we'll see. It's just like,
that's so funny that you kept that, and that's so cool.
It just somehow it was partially crumpled up in one of the folders where it was like, I don't know, it must have been like at a coffee shop maybe, and I'm like writing stuff down, and then
But it reminds me too of like the, you know, we talked about envelope art and all that stuff, like with Christopher, that a lot of those, it's all that sort of just, it's a collection of something that almost looks like it could be thrown out, but it's actually
so
really
well preserved,
interesting. And
I 30 years old and has been in the attic.
That's so cool.
I save a lot of stuff that I conceptualize as like ephemera, and I can't remember where I picked up that term from. I think it might have been like a Tim Holtz. It was like a scrapbooking and stamping artist. I think that might have been something that I picked up from him. But so when we were doing the Creative Bug Challenge, there's like become a collector. I was like, well, that's not a problem for me at all, because I have about a bazillion different collections. One of the ones that I recently redid is I save all of the like ticket stubs and receipts, wristbands from like escape rooms, movies, concerts, stuff that Chris and I have done together, that my partner and I have done together.
Nice.
And I have them in a big shadow box, and there was a really tiny one, and I got a bigger one because I couldn't fit anything more in it. And that was so fun going through that, of like saving those little things. Those are the kind of things that I especially hold on to, is those little nostalgic things that have like, I remember doing this. Because part of the cleaning up my crafting space was I was finding stuff that I had pulled out. My dad and I went to Japan, and one of the things that was really cool for me, my dad and I went to Japan in 2007, and we saved everything. Plane tickets, brochures, got everything. And I pulled all of that out when my partner and I were planning our honeymoon to Japan earlier this year, and then forgot that it was there, pulled it all back out again, and was like, it's still cool. I still love this. I'm still holding on to it. How am I going to store this so that it doesn't get damaged? But yeah, I love that ephemera type stuff. Because it's all changed drastically. I was looking at one of the brochures from Kyoto, and it was like, well, that museum I know is closed. That's changed. So just going through and ticking off the boxes of like the kind of things that are different now. So
cool.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. Wow.
I kind of rambled on that, but that's...
I know.
I think that was it's a really interesting, I feel like it's a good place to be left, you know?
Yeah,
I
think so.
like that.
Yeah.
See what you do with it. So.
Yeah, so we'll catch up with you guys, everybody watching, when we finish our Creative Bug Challenge at the end of July. We'll shoot a video for that where we go and review everything that we did and kind of things that we liked and didn't like. In the meantime, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out some other stuff that other AADL creators have put on AADL TV. Sorry, I stumbled there. And until next time, stay safe, and don't forget to love each other. Bye.
Bye.